Hello, everybody. This is Ken Krogh, President and founder of InsideSales.com. I have the privilege today to introduce Brian Frank, the Vice President of Global Sales Operations at LinkedIn, the world's largest professional network. I had a wonderful little chat with Brian for a few moments. I asked him, what's the vision of LinkedIn? Where's it going? And he says, well, right now our mission is to connect the world's professionals, and they are doing it. But soon, where they're moving is to become the ultimate economic opportunity network, the platform that brings together jobs, businesses, and selling opportunities. And I have to tell you, Brian, I believe that LinkedIn is one of the most powerful sales tools that has ever been invented. And we are so excited to learn more about the social selling era and what LinkedIn's been able to contribute and some of the wonderful research that you've done. So from here on out, take it away, Brian. Thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you, Ken. I really appreciate that nice introduction, and I'm excited to be here as well and to talk to everyone today about social selling in the new era. I thought I'd start it off with talking a little bit about LinkedIn. Hopefully most of your listeners know some about LinkedIn, but what you might not know is that LinkedIn is a very global and a very fast-growing company. We currently have 225 million members around the globe in virtually every country out there, and we're growing in over 2 million members every second. And that's also 100 million people visit LinkedIn every single month. So there's a massive amount of traffic and activity that's happening. But all of this activity really is there only to support what our ultimate mission is, which is to connect the world's professionals and make them more productive and successful. We have a mantra at LinkedIn, which is members first. And the thing that we think about morning and night is how do we help our members be more successful? And everything we do, whether it be hiring, marketing, or selling and providing those products for our customers, it's all about making our members more productive and successful. So one of the questions I get asked very frequently is, how does LinkedIn make money? And the way I like to sum it up is to say that LinkedIn helps transform the way companies hire, market, and sell. We're going to go into each of these three things individually over the next 30 minutes. Now, most of you probably think about LinkedIn as a place where you find a job. And it's true. Many thousands of people are finding jobs every month on LinkedIn. It's been a very significant path for us to sort of change the economy as it relates to hiring. And it really relates to sort of the experience that hiring managers have. LinkedIn is significantly disrupting what's happening in the hiring space because we are replacing an old technology, which is job boards, and we are displacing a new business, which is executive recruiting. Basically, LinkedIn is providing something that hiring managers always wanted. I think the best way to think about it, maybe to give you an example, is thinking about it as such. Imagine, if you will, a barrel of apples. And this barrel of apples is only 16% full. And you're hungry, and so you want to eat, and you reach into the barrel of apples, and you pull out an apple and maybe slightly misshapen or a little mushy on one of the corners, so you throw it back in the barrel for the next guy. And you keep plunging into the barrel until one of two things happens. Either you find the perfect apple, or you find the best available apple. Now that analogy is the experience that every single hiring manager has on the planet. They're frustrated with not being able to find the right people all the time. Well, what would you do if your barrel of apples was, instead of only being 16% full, was 95% full? All of a sudden your problem wouldn't be what's the best available apple, but what's the best apple. And that's what LinkedIn is essentially doing for our hiring solutions customers. We are giving them access to the world's inventory of people of which they can select the best candidates. And that access and that democratization of data is very much displacing, as I mentioned before, the existing paradigm of hiring. Now, many of you are probably salespeople out there, and so this idea of recruiting maybe is relevant or not relevant to you. But I actually think that recruiting passive talent is a lot like selling software. I used to sell software, and so it's actually very, very similar. When you have a multi-tiered sales effort, the first thing you want to do is understand the market, right? You want to go out there and map the competitive landscape. You want to know what your customers are saying. Well, it's the same thing as it relates to hiring. You want to understand, why does someone want to work at your company, or why does someone not want to work at your company? The branding and the marketing that basically go into the value of what you're actually providing or selling is critically important. So you have to understand what's happening in the market. Now, once you do understand it, that's when you go out there and you start doing this marketing. You generate leads, you communicate your brand, you do all the things that marketing does for us to basically help us be successful as sales professionals. And then the last thing you do is you go out there and you hire a very capable, very powerful sales organization, which can basically go out there and directly source to the customers you want, the things that members of InsideSales.com do. Well, LinkedIn does the same thing. We sell products which help you understand your recruiting in your atmosphere. We sell tools which help you communicate your brand, like career pages and jobs networks. And ultimately, we sell this very powerful tool called LinkedIn Recruiter, which allows you to go in and remove the haystack and display the needles that are remaining underneath. And that's the set of products that essentially makes up what we call the LinkedIn Talent Solutions business. Now, in addition to talent and hiring, LinkedIn is also helping companies market their products. And this might seem a lot more obvious to you. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. And what does that mean? It means that the people who are on LinkedIn have an aspirational mindset. They're not there to share photos. They're there for their career. They're not there to, comment on why they like a particular actor or popular sports star. They're there to understand the market. They're there to gather information. They're there to buy. They're there to sell. People on LinkedIn are interested in news, not entertainment. And so when they're there, this is the world of B2B sales. This is where B2B marketers should be when they're going after the market that they actually care about. And so as it relates to marketing and products for marketers, LinkedIn offers a platform of incredibly targeted, relevant content to help you push your message to the right person at the right time in the right way, as well as pull that information out and put it through a viral social channel so that everyone can share in it. So for example, you can target an individual on LinkedIn with inside of a certain set. So if you sell to lawyers in Pennsylvania, you can advertise just to lawyers in Pennsylvania because LinkedIn has a whole bunch of them, and that is our audience target. But you can also publish content to them, and when you publish that content, they can read it, engage in it. That can generate a lead, and of course, we have that viral capabilities to extend that reach out across our entire network. So one article published or one type of advertising or one content messaging that's come through can be pushed out across an incredible network of millions and millions of people, really advancing your reach and extending your ability to have your marketing dollar go further. The products that we sell in the marketing solutions are some of the most innovative and exciting things that we're working on today. But I know ultimately all of you are really here to hear about sell, because while LinkedIn does help companies hire, market, and sell, that's what all of you do, is sell. And that's what I do too, and that's what my team does. I run the teams that do a lot of the prospecting at LinkedIn, as well as help the teams across LinkedIn be successful. So I get the need to sell. And the need to sell is complex because we're always being challenged by all the things that we need to focus on. It's hard to know as sales professionals what's really important. But the way I break it down to my team, and I say the one thing to focus on, because we are a very acquisition mindset, is build more pipeline. Lead generation. Leads is what I want you to think about. But that begs the question, ultimately, who's responsible for lead generation, right? We know that marketing contributes roughly 30% of our leads for most companies. That means, what about the remaining 70%? Who's responsible for generating all of that information? We're working in a world which is ever-changing, and things that we used to do are not working as well as they used to do. Today's buyer knows what's going on because they're reaching out to their networks and learning more information. Today's buyer has already made up their mind before they're even talking to you. If you're cold calling them, how many of you had that experience where you cold call someone, you talk to them, and then they immediately hit the internet and find out all the other products are out there? So you've built awareness about your solution, and then they basically sourced it for you in a matter of 10 minutes. And ultimately, we're finding is that cold calling isn't working. It's just pounding the phone over and over and over is not being successful. So we have this obligation to deliver our leads. If we're waiting around for marketing to make us successful, it's not going to happen. But the traditional methods that we used to use just aren't working. What are we going to do? Use LinkedIn. And I think what I wanted to do with this, there's many, many companies using LinkedIn. There's many, many individuals who have used LinkedIn. There's many, many research companies who've recommended LinkedIn. But I wanted to give you a brief story about myself and tell you about how I use LinkedIn to be successful. When I started selling, I came late to the game of sales, and I was a lawyer in my previous world, and I was selling to other in-house lawyers. And I started making cold calls, and it was horrible. It just wasn't working for me. I couldn't do it. And I was about to quit, and that's when I rediscovered LinkedIn. That's when I found that I, as a lawyer, was connected to a whole bunch of previous other lawyers, and of course those lawyers were connected to other lawyers. And I suddenly realized that LinkedIn was the world's greatest prospecting database, as well as the world's greatest resume database. And in fact, true story, I was actually banned from LinkedIn when I was on it because I was over-connecting with people. But what I found was that my success on LinkedIn was really strong because I was very comfortable reaching out to my network and asking for introductions, and when I would reach out to people through warm introductions, connect with people. So LinkedIn actually saved my sales career, not because it provided a substitute for cold calling. It's because I couldn't cold call. I was not successful at it. If it wasn't for LinkedIn, I wouldn't be here today and be able to sell. Let me drive this home through another example. So imagine we have Jack. Jack is your traditional salesperson, right? Jack basically has his contact list. It's the same one I was probably using. It's a bunch of outdated information. He pops onto a company website. He finds the address or the phone number of some company. He writes a veto letter, a veto email to 5 different email addresses, and then he starts cold calling into the company, trying to get through the gatekeeper to the decision maker. That's one model. The other model is the model that we like to espouse. We'll use Brian as the example of the sales professional. Brian, what he's doing is he's basically using the internet to basically find the one person that actually matters. Instead of just looking at a contact list that he's been provided, he's going out to sources like LinkedIn. Once again, LinkedIn is your core source in the world of B2B data. But there may be other sources out there if you're not selling to B2B. He uses LinkedIn. He finds the people, the individuals that actually are relevant to him, and the ones with the titles at the right companies that are the people he should be talking to. He looks at their profiles. He figures out what about them may lead me to have some sort of relevance to this person, either a common connection of someone we both know, we both went to school, information, something on their profile which is interesting. And then he reaches out through third parties to get a warm introduction. Hey, can you introduce me to the right person at the right time? That's the beginning of social prospecting and one of the fundamental tenets of social selling. Ultimately, what makes Brian more successful? He's owning that lead generation. He's not outsourcing it to somebody. He's using leads and doing it in a very thoughtful way with insights and understanding better what he actually has to know about that particular person and that particular entity. And then ultimately, he's using social media as that channel to basically create a warm lead for himself. And we found that in the industry, reps doing this are 40% more successful than reps that do not, which is a material impact especially if you're trading right near your number. As I said before, I believe LinkedIn is at the heart of social selling, and our product Sales Navigator is the product which actually supports this. LinkedIn, if you're a B2B salesperson, that's where the people are. Finding those right people is what matters. Knowing what to talk to them is ultimately what LinkedIn is revealing for you, and ultimately beyond that, how do you get to those individuals is what's answering this particular question of connections. This is fundamentally changing the old paradigm of how we sell, and this is the embodiment of what social selling is today. So I want to show you one more example of like kind of what this means as a very practical matter in terms of like finding the right people, and introduce a very new important concept to you. So let's say, for example, you're looking for people on LinkedIn and you search and the results are like 125,000 people. I mean, holy cow, where are you going to do that? Well, with LinkedIn's premium product, which you call Sales Navigator, you can basically filter that search down by using a set of premium filters to really find who you actually care about within sort of the companies and within inside of the titles and within inside of the years of experience that actually matter, so you can actually find the right person. But it's not just finding the right person, it's also finding the right person who's connected to you or to people at your company. And that last feature is something that we call TeamLink. And I want to pause here because I think it's so important for you to understand this. If there's one thing that you walk away from this presentation with, remember the word TeamLink, because it's going to change your life. Basically, what TeamLink does is it takes all of the employees in your company and combines it together with your connections, so that when you look on people at LinkedIn, you can see the common connections between you and between the person that you actually want to talk to. And so that guy down the hall that you work with, that you've known for 20 years, it just turns out that he's actually connected to the person that you care about. How many times does that happen? It happens all the time. What TeamLink is doing is revealing the underground railroad, the railroad that you can't see, of mapping connections together so that you can unlock the power of your company's common connections. But it's not only about finding the right person and finding the relevance. You also want to know, well, what am I going to talk about actually after I get there? Well, with LinkedIn, you can see the conversation. You can see where they worked. You can see where they went to school. You can see who they're connected to. You can see what they're passionate about. What are they saying about themselves? What groups are they members of? What companies are they following? What individuals and influencers are following? What sort of updates have they made? All of this is rich fodder. I was on a call the other day, believe it or not, and someone actually was doing great social selling to me, and they said, I see that you're interested in Japanese art, because I listed it in my hobby somewhere. And I said, I actually am. I collect modern Japanese art. And he says, it's interesting because I'm actually a professional artist, trained. It was a way for him to tell something about himself to me and relate it to something that was on my profile. I thought it was actually very ingenious. Last but not least, the question is, how do I get into that person? And so this is the question, once again, of finding that common connection. It's about using features like TeamLink. If you can get TeamLink to work for you, it's gold, because no one's going to help you more to get into an account than your fellow colleagues. The employees of your company are much more likely to help you than even one of your random connections at any given time. These are people that want to help you. So, and you all share a common objective. So leverage those common connections to basically make those warm introductions. When you ask those teammates for introductions, you can actually automate that entire process through LinkedIn, and the Sales Navigator product actually does that for you. So when you click on, ask this person for an introduction, a box pops up, and you can use the tool right there to say, hey, Bob, can you introduce me to Sally? I really would love to meet Sally in this organization because I think that she'd be a great person who could really benefit from the products that we're selling. Ultimately, that's where the cold introduction becomes into a really warm introduction. Now, I have a person who works for me, or used to work for me on my team. Her name was Rochelle Diamond, and she is one of our learning professionals, works in the sales effectiveness team. And so I'm using this as an example of what not to do, but just as an example of like anyone can do this. We all do this all day. We are constantly not using social selling. And even at LinkedIn, we are not perfect by any stretch. We are always trying to get better. So here's a great example of Rochelle has a brother. Her brother is called Jeff. His name's Jeff, and he works in the marketing industry. And Jeff received a cold email from someone on my team asking Jeff if he'd be interested in having a meeting to learn more about LinkedIn products. And Jeff got that email and forwarded it on to Rochelle with a smiley face. Why? Because Jeff was thinking, boy, if they had just looked on LinkedIn, they would have seen that Rochelle works at LinkedIn and would have been very happy to broker that introduction. But because they didn't do good social selling, they missed that opportunity for that warmer introduction. However, this is the type of salesperson you do want to be. This was a great example of someone who leveraged the social relationship and was able to find a person inside of our company who was happy to help that salesperson. And by doing it, they were not only able to close the deal within half the time it normally takes, they got a response back from the person, their prospect, within an hour, and the deal size was double what they normally get. So this is great social selling. This is exactly what you want to do. This is leveraging Sales Navigator and the LinkedIn social network to drive sales in a very thoughtful way. I thought I'd leave you with, as my last slide, just to talk a little bit about sort of what does it mean ultimately to be an expert at social selling. We've talked a lot about sales prospecting and social prospecting in Sales Navigator, LinkedIn's core product, and how it can help you as an individual sales professional and your company as a sales professional. But it's really a lot more than that. I think that these 5 areas really break it down with respect to what is each element of social selling, and each one, moving from left to right, really takes us to the point of where we really want to be in terms of our advanced state of social selling. So for example, as an individual, it's great to have a profile on LinkedIn, but if you are a master social seller, your profile shouldn't just be your resume. Your profile should be your personal brand, and it should be a marketing opportunity to basically say, why should someone buy from you? Remember, your customers are looking at you on LinkedIn. What is the story that you're telling to them, and is it powerful? Likewise, your network is not just the people that you know and that you've worked with, but your network is a broad selection of all of your customers and all of your prospects because they want to connect to you because you are someone who is a thought leader in the space and someone who can help them, not just help yourself. Your groups, it's very common to belong to 1 or 2 groups and not be very deeply involved in those groups for most people, but if you are a true social seller, you are going to be participating in influential groups and be somebody who has developed a point of view about a particular industry, about a particular product, whatever it is that you ultimately sell. We want you to be out there sort of talking about it so that other people look at you as someone that they should think of as a potential consultative partner in selling and not just a sales professional. And ultimately, it's your involvement, right? The question is like, are you there every once in a while? Are you checking into LinkedIn once a month? Or are you responsive to it? The same responsiveness on LinkedIn as you spend on your email every day is probably, or hopefully on your email every day, is the requirement that you really want to be when you're a great, great social seller. So with that, I just want to say thank you to InsideSales.com, and thank you for all of you for spending a half hour with me. I really enjoyed talking to you about social selling, and hope to see you on LinkedIn in the future.